want to talk about today um, is holding space. I think it's very fitting based on the experience we had this past weekend, where you're able to hold space for myself and my brother and yourself as well. And yeah, we just had such a cool experience, and I'm very grateful for you for helping to cultivate that for us.
Yeah, I mean, you can share, I'm sure you can share a little bit more. I'm sure people listening would like to know more about what we did this past weekend.
Yeah, so you were guiding us through a mushroom ceremony, and it's something you've done many times in the past, and something that we've had the pleasure of experiencing before. Just you and I back in Arkansas a couple of years ago, and you were able to kind of recreate that space for my brother and I, and just such a cool time. We rented the Airbnb down in Tucson, and just everything that went into it. The first day we showed up, and the beautiful dinner we had downtown in Tucson, and then the hike in the morning the next day, and just kind of how everything led up to the ceremony, and the beautiful space that you and I and my brother were able to create with all the decorations and the plants, and the sheets, um, and the delicious food that you prepared, and obviously the ceremony space and creating the altar. Just such a cool experience. Very powerful for me, very powerful for my brother, as it was his first experience, and he was able to come to some beautiful realizations and was able to put them into words, that I never was able to. And that's one of his gifts, I think, is being able to put his experiences into words that other people can understand. And hopefully we'll have him on here in the next few episodes. But yeah, just really
Yeah,
cool.
yeah, man, super cool. I mean, it's something that I hold very close to my heart. I feel unbelievably honored to be able to hold that space for people. Everyone, whether it's you, my brother, or someone I've just met, the ability and the to hold that space, number one, the trust that that person is having within me. um and then it's just so much fun, dude, like the creativity we get to have creating the physical space, the beautiful music that we get to put together, and just all like the little things that go into it that just make it such an amazing and beautiful experience. I think holding space, what we're going to talk about today, is one of the greatest gifts that we can give to someone else. Another way to say that is our presence, like our loving presence is one of the greatest gifts that we can give to someone else. Um, and so any chance I have, um, that I'm invited into that space is it's just so beautiful, man. I feel very grateful. So thank you.
So for people listening that might not have any sort of background, you want to just give a kind of a general outline of how ceremony works, maybe a couple more details
Yeah.
on what goes into it.
Yeah, it's a good idea. So obviously, I can't speak for anyone else. I can just speak for the way I approach ceremony. So I split it up into three things: preparation. And so the preparation for me is pretty much like a month beforehand. Um, and so I meet with people every week, at least once a week. I send them a lot of paperwork beforehand, outlining a lot of things, going over contraindication medications they may be on, stuff like that, all the way into like nutrition, to be consuming before the ceremony. And then I put together just an insane, beautiful questionnaire that they go through, which really just pulls things out of them. The more vulnerable and authentic they are within that, the more I'm able to really reflect a very clear mirror back to them. And we come to a place where their intentions become very clear after going through that questionnaire. And so, based off that questionnaire, we then go into the ceremony with a very clear vision as to what that person's intention is. And then ceremony is, let's say, 2.5 days at minimum. I love to spend that time together. Always like going out into nature. I really enjoy presenting the guest with as many opportunities to surrender before the actual ceremony, right? So going for like a nice hike, dude, where we push it. Um, Maybe doing like really intense breath work with them. Just more and more opportunities for that person to be able to fall into surrender, because when it comes to the ceremony, that's their greatest ally, is their ability to surrender and have faith and have trust. And then after the ceremony, which is number two, number three is integration. And so after the ceremony, we meet a week after, and we meet 2 weeks after that, and then we meet a month after that, just to see what comes up, allow that person to share. So, after consuming psilocybin as a medicine, you have, on average, for up to 3 months after the ceremony, you have a lot of neuroplasticity, which means that your ability to rewire your neural connections within your brain is heightened. And so it's really important, man. If you're really looking to make change, you have a really heightened ability to make change. And so I want to create space, hold space for that person, if they want to talk about anything in those, weeks and months after the ceremony. And so, yeah, that's obviously just like a quick synopsis of how I approach ceremony. I'm sure other people approach it differently, but that's how I've found that feels really aligned and authentic for me, and it continues to be very well received by everyone else. And so,
Yeah, I can speak for myself when I say that, so much of the work is done in that first section that you spoke about, where you sent us a questionnaire and we answered the questions. And like you said, the more authentic we can be is the more beneficial it is for us, the more we get out of it. So yeah, and then the ceremony is, I mean, in my experience, has just been honestly enjoyable. You there's a lot of fears that go into it, and, a lot of nerves and whatnot. But for me, my two experiences in ceremony has been really powerful, really enjoyable. It was so cool to see my brother going through it and see how much he got out of it. And like I said earlier, how he was able to put into words like so eloquently, like what he was able to get from it. So that was super cool for me.
yeah,
But yeah, I think
it's
it kind of,
there you go.
well, I was just going to say it kind of introduces us perfectly to our topic that we want to talk about today about, holding space. But
Yeah, it does. I was gonna add, before I go into that, I was gonna add, it's like it's always a beautiful space. It's not always an easy space, and so, I know that some people go through ceremonies and just have a really lovely la-di-da time, and other people go through some really tough things. But it's all beautiful. It really is all beautiful, and that's why we're there, to do the work, right? um and I'm just so, again, so honored to be able to do the work with people. It's really, really beautiful. And so, yeah, holding space. I think, let's just start with, what does holding space mean to me? I'm not sure if everyone's heard that term or if they're familiar with that term. So I'll just explain it. So for me, it is, again, your ability to be present with another person, right? Really, really present. Allowing another being to be exactly as they are, not wanting to change them, not even wanting to help them, meaning that the realization that you aren't the savior. The ego loves to be the savior, man. It's like, and it's something I think we can all relate to, especially with our loved ones. They come to us with a problem, and all we want to do is give them, the best advice and be like, oh, you should just do this. I did this and it was great. And as great as that can be sometimes, that's not always, it's not always what I would lead with when it comes to holding space for someone else. It's not about me. It's not about me. It's not about me saving anyone. It's not about me helping anyone. It's about me being present, holding a space of loving awareness. That's what I think about, right? Like the term hold space, that's all you're doing. You are holding a loving space for someone that may be going through something, right? And that's the key term there, like holding a loving space so that when they're ready, there's a loving space waiting for them. It's not about trying to smother them with this loving space. It's just about holding it. And it can be hard to hold it, right? Like we can get sucked up in their drama, right? If someone's telling us a really challenging story, right, that really starts to pull on our heartstrings, it can be really hard not to fall into that drama. But in order to hold space, you don't want to be falling into that drama. Um, and that is something that I have realized I do very well with. And I'm very grateful that I have that ability because people lay some really heavy shit on me, dude. um, and as much as I have empathy for them, um, there's a difference between empathy and identification. I can have empathy for someone without identifying with their experience and making it about me, which then pulls me into their drama and now doesn't allow me to hold space anymore. So, I mean, those would be the main things that kind of come up for me when I think about the term holding space.
Yeah, I think for me, it's been, what you just spoke about. It is challenging at times when people are sharing problems, that they have, and all you want to do is present them with a solution. And it's so clear, from my perspective, a lot of times, oh, well, you could just easily do this, or this isn't a real problem. This is something that you're creating in your mind. Um, but that's not always helpful for the person that's sharing. Um, I think that's really important to understand as a person holding space is, again, like what you said, not trying to be the savior, not trying to solve their problems, but just actually just being there and listening. And I know that's a lot of times a lot better received than just trying to solve everything when you hear it.
Yeah, I do. I mean, and I can understand that impulse to solve, dude. I can really understand that impulse, right? The mind really wants to work through the problem, but holding space isn't a space for your mind. Holding space is a space for your heart. And that's really important to understand. Some people may be like, what do you mean it's a space for your heart? Like, how am I supposed to, like, how am I supposed to not use my mind? um, I can just tell you how I approach it. Um, I bring my awareness to my heart. I breathe into my heart. And any time that I notice I am no longer in my heart, I take the time to get back into my heart, knowing that that is the only way I can serve that person in that space. Again, your mind is a beautiful thing, but your mind works in a certain way. Your mind wants to solve problems. What it does, it dissects things, dude. Right. And holding space for someone isn't a place to dissect, it's a place to listen. Right. Saying something as simple as I hear you, right? I hear you is sometimes all that is needed.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so I think for me, also like trust, having faith that your presence is enough, having faith that your love is enough, having faith that you are enough, knowing that you are enough, just being there is enough is really, really important. And when in doubt, stay silent. There is no need to abruptly say something if it isn't coming from your heart when you're holding space for someone. And I don't want to say all this stuff and like freak you out. Like, oh my God, am I doing it right? Am I doing it wrong? Am I holding space correctly? That's not why I'm saying these things. I'm saying these things because I've been there many, many, many times. And I've done all the things that I'm telling you. It's not that I'm telling you not to do it. I'm just letting you know what more often than not is received well. than other things, right? That's all I'm saying. I'm not saying there's a right and a wrong way or what you should do or shouldn't do. Um, and so I've just been there many times, and I tried to solve things many times. um, but and you can feel it, dude. Like I can feel it. I can feel when I'm coming from a really loving, beautiful place, and I'm focused on that other being, on that other soul, rather than focused on me. And what can I say to help? And all these different things, right? There's a big difference in feeling there. And so, let's simplify it, right? Let's simplify it for people. Where are you coming from? I think is a really beautiful question to ask yourself when you're holding space for someone else. I think continuing to ask yourself that question throughout the time that you're holding space for someone is super important. And when you realize that you're not coming from a place that you truly desire to, giving yourself the time and space to get there, and even letting that person know, say, hey, I just need a moment. Just give me a moment. Right.
Mhm.
Um, that would be the simplest advice I could give you, is asking yourself that question, where am I coming from? And then continuing to ask yourself that question within that space.
Yeah, I think something I struggle with, I think it's something a lot of people struggle with, is what you said earlier about just the ability to just stay silent
Mm,
when when things are being said to you, and you don't, and your first reaction is always to fill in the silence or say something that maybe makes sense, like, or just show some empathy, or like, try to show them that you're understanding what they're saying. But I think silence is very powerful. I also think something you do very well, that, you know, I think this takes a lot of practice, but when you've held space for me in the past, you're very good at asking questions. I think that's a very powerful tool to have when you're holding space for people. And that can be a slippery slope too, because you could be asking them leading questions that might try to get a response that you want to hear, rather than what
mm.
what would benefit them. So I think that's kind of interesting thing to think about as well.
Yeah, for sure, dude. I'm glad you said those two things. Like, silence is huge. And instead of talking about silence, let's talk about like what allows you to be silent. And that's just being like a really good listener. If you're like really focused on listening, you're going to be silent because you're listening and you're not
Mhm.
talking. Right. And so, like, listening with your whole body, not just your ears. Right. Like, what does that mean? Your heart is a sense organ, right? It creates a field around your body that is pushing out information and receiving information. And so your ability to be within your heart and listening from your heart, as well as listening from your ears, is really important, right? And what does it mean to listen from your heart? Well, it feels like intuition, right? Like what your intuition feels like is what it feels like to listen from your heart, which means that things are going to happen really fast if you're listening through your heart, meaning that something you might say is going to just come out instead of you actually thinking about, is this the right thing to say? Should I say this? It's more of an intuitive thing that just comes out really beautifully. Letting go of your inner commentary, right, is something super difficult for a lot of people. Is like, as someone else is talking, you're thinking about what you're going to say,
Mhm.
right? Or what you should say. Letting go of that really allows you to listen. If you're talking, you're not listening, man. If you're talking just to yourself, not out loud, you're not listening. Um, yeah, those two things, being a really good listener and like implementing those two things, is going to allow you to be silent more often. And it's also going to allow you, when you do plan on talking, whether it's a question, and we'll talk about that in a second, it's going to be a really like aligned and relevant comment, because you're listening so deeply. You're listening beyond words. You're listening to their feelings because you're listening with your heart. You're listening to their feelings. Yes, you're listening to their words also. Man, so many things are coming to me right now. You're also like listening to the being instead of listening to the personality, right? Like, what do I mean by that? You can look at like, you can be sitting across from someone and they could be just like going through it, man, like really going through it, frustrated, angry, sad, whatever it is. And as that personality is going through all of that stuff, can you connect to the being within? can you see yourself within that person? Can you see God within that person? Can you always see that as well as see the personality going through what it's going through? If you're able to see both at the same time, again, your ability to respond in a really aligned way is just going to be so much more likely.
Mhm.
Um, and then questions, you mentioned questions. So, yeah, questions are great. Your ability to ask questions allows that person to, number one, like unconsciously realize a lot of things. Number one, you care because you're asking questions, so you want them to talk more. Number two, you're listening because hopefully your questions are relevant to what they're saying.
Mhm.
Uh, and you're also, again, taking the role of not the savior, because instead of telling them what to do or how to do it, you're just asking them a question and they're going to help themselves. They're going to save themselves. They're the only person that can help or save themselves. And so, asking good questions is a really great way to assist when you're holding space.
Yeah, man, I'm just super grateful for the times that you've held space for me, and I think, yeah, like I said earlier, I think that's definitely one of your tools in your toolbox that you're able to, to bring to the table very effectively. And you've asked me questions in the past that, it doesn't feel like you're guiding me in a certain way, but a lot of times they're able to, I'm able to answer them in a way that really brings some deep truth.
Yeah, I do know. And I appreciate that, man. And it's like, yeah, I mean, it's not, I don't ask questions to like guide people in a certain direction, but like there are like questions that are very obvious, like depending on how you answer them, whether you're in your ego or in your heart. Like it's very obvious. And those same questions can really change someone's life like in an instant, right? Like that same question I asked you when we were here in New Year's that changed your life in an instant, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, and again, like when you think about that question, you realize that like how easy it would be to know whether you're in your heart or in your ego based off the answer to the
Yeah.
question, right? Like super easy. And so there's again like it's not like hey here's the top 10 questions. I don't really desire to like tell people how they should hold space, what, and stuff like that. Cause ultimately, the only way I got to a place where I'm able to do what I do is from doing it and realizing, man, like I shouldn't have said that. Or like, man, I really wasn't coming from my heart in that moment. And so I really want people, as much as I, desire to share my experience with them and they can take and leave what they want. I also really like desire for you to trust yourself, trust your heart, connect to your heart and trust it. Um, and know that like you're capable and you're powerful to hold space for everyone, including yourself. Man, holding space for yourself is a whole nother thing as well that we can talk about. Right. Um, but yeah, man, it really is a heart driven space. And so I don't want people to think like, oh, I need to read this book and I need to read that book and I need to get better at that. It's like, no, like if there's anything that, you need to get better at, it's creating a better relationship with your heart and knowing how to get there faster and knowing how to stay there in the midst of people throwing all this crazy energy at you. you know?
Yeah, I think it's true with me. I think it's true with a lot of people where the I don't know, maybe one of the most common people that a lot of people reach out to is their parents to hold space for them.
Mm,
I know that's true for me. And what I found helpful is when I do reach out to my mother, she's always, of course, trying to find the solution and trying to, help me out as best she can in her mind. And something that, we've talked about before and I've talked about with my mom is just letting her know when I want her to hold space for me, like, look, I'm not looking for a solution. I just kind of want you to hear me right now. And that's been really helpful to cultivate that space um, between at least between my mother and myself, and even other people I've spoken with that might not be quite as in tune, with the idea of holding space that you might be or other people might be. But so that's been helpful for me.
Dude, that's huge. I think that's a really beautiful thing, and I'm glad you said it because, like, if you are the person that desires someone else to hold space for you, let them know what you want, right? Like, don't just expect that they're going to know what you want. And so, if that's the space you desire, like, let them know. Say, hey, look, I really need someone to talk to. I really don't want you to say anything. I really just want you to listen. Or, hey, I really don't need you to give me a solution. I really just want you to hear me, you know? That's really important too, man. Like share that, know what you want. And don't be afraid to ask someone to hold space for you. Like it's so important for us to get this stuff off our chest, off our shoulders, so we can just let it go, man. Or even just say it out loud, not to even to possibly let it go, but just to say it out loud so we can hear it. And maybe like take some wisdom from it, and move forward. Um, Something else that comes up for me based off holding space is like everything is welcome in that space. Fear, pain, anger, like it's all welcome. It can't be something that you push away, right? Like, oh, you shouldn't feel that way. Don't be angry. Like it's okay for that to exist also. Um, you want that other person to feel safe. You want that other person to feel welcome, like all parts of them are welcome, right? And that means there can't be any judgment, which is
Mhm.
huge. There can't be any judgment whatsoever about anything that they say, about anything that they feel. And again, that goes back to seeing the being as well as seeing the personality. If you can see the being at all times, then there's never going to be judgment, right? Because you have that connection. So,
Yeah, something came up actually today, and when I was working out with my brother, and he was having a little bit of trouble, I think, holding space for his girlfriend Amanda. Amanda was struggling with the idea that her mom is leaving on Christmas Day, and so she was sharing that with him, and his mind goes, his first response is, well, it's not happening right now. Why are you creating this problem that doesn't exist right now? She's not leaving right now, and so he's immediately trying to solve the problem instead of just holding space and being understanding, and it's not easy to do. And like I said earlier, I mean, I do the same thing all the time. When Roxanne is struggling with something, all I want to do is immediately solve it. But and I was wondering if you had any, I guess, techniques or ideas, things to bring into your, into the forefront of your mind when something like that happens. um
like techniques as like things to not be the
Ways,
savior.
yeah, ways to respond instead of trying to solve things. Like what would you say instead of, because
Gotcha.
your brain
Yeah.
immediately goes to, how do I solve this?
Yeah.
So how
Yeah.
could you respond differently in order to hold space more effectively?
Cool. So obviously, like awareness is needed in that space
Yeah.
in order to do anything that you want to do, right? So let's just say that first and foremost, because I think like a lot of the time in those instances, when it's not someone saying, "Hey, like, can you please hold space for me?" When it's actually just someone saying something, especially someone you love, awareness is key. And like once you have the awareness, then what do I do with it? Again, connect to your heart. But if you're asking like what are some things that you can actually say, instead of being the savior, things that I often say, I'll just tell you things that I say. Like things that I often say that come out of my mouth is like, I hear you, I hear you, I really hear you. Other things that come out of my mouth is like, I am here for you. I don't know how to fix your problem right now, but just know that I'm here for you, and if there is anything that you would like from me, please just ask. Right. um
Yeah, I think that's really cool, is separating yourself from the issue. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, again, like if you're not the savior, what are you? What are you?
You're a
Right?
witness.
You're the witness. Yeah, dude.
Yeah.
Yeah, buddy. Exactly, right? You're the witness, dude. Right? That's what you are. You are the observer, you are the witness, you are a loving presence. That's what you are. So connect to that, right? So if you bring awareness to the fact that, okay, right now I want to be the savior, you bring awareness to that. Okay, I'm not the savior. What am I? I am the loving witness. All right, cool. What would a loving witness do? I would love them. And I would be here to witness everything that they desire to share with me. Right. And so from there, some beautiful things will come out of your mouth. I hear you. I love you. I am here for you. Um, is there anything else you would like to share with me? I mean, dude, there's so many beautiful things come from just that connection. The connection is key, right? That's that's the that's the space that all comes from. That's why I continue to come back to that as the most important thing. But yeah, there's some things that that come out of my mouth when I'm the loving witness.
Yeah. And then something else we kind of touched on in preparation for this episode is just the idea of, creating the safety net through not judging, and something I definitely struggle with. I mean, we had the conversation last night between you and me and Roxy in preparation for our wedding ceremony, and
Mm-hmm.
still this morning things came up from that, and I was very judgmental. It was early in the morning, and I wasn't fully aware in the moment, and so some things came up, and immediately I was judgmental, and definitely have some regrets with how I responded in that moment. Talking back about the situation with my sister's dog and Roxy not feeling comfortable about around him,
Mm-hmm.
and yeah, I immediately jumped into judgment, and so I don't know if you want to talk about that at all, but
Like judgment in general.
yeah, yeah, through in the conversation, in the idea of in the holding space.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think the simplest thing I can say is like, if you are loving awareness, there will never be judgment. And so the experience you had this morning was obviously a programmed reaction that you were not aware in that moment. And I would just say the same thing about holding space, right? Like the key is for you to be aware. And then when you're aware, you connect to the fact that you are the loving awareness and the loving witness, right? In that space. Your experience this morning was an experience that we all have. And it's gonna happen. It's gonna happen. And so, offering yourself grace, the faster you can offer yourself grace, the faster you'll bring awareness to that space and the faster you'll be able to connect back to love. Um, in regards to judgment as a subject, it really has no place when you're holding space for another person. And as soon as you become aware that you're judging, I would remove myself from the space until I'm able to inhabit that space again from a non-judgmental place.
Yeah, it's an important idea to hold on to and to
Yeah.
establish. And
Yeah, but it's also just as important to understand that like it's going to happen. We all have programs that are no longer serving us. We all have triggers that bring up these judgments. It's not about judging yourself for judging. And it's not about having regrets and stuff like that. It's more about realizing that we're all, you know, souls or beings in this human experience, and we're going to have many, many moments of human reactions, and that's okay. Um, can we learn from them? Can we bring wisdom from them, and then can we apply that to the next moment?
yeah, really cool.
Yeah, yeah. Anything else, dude, that comes up for you on the subject of holding space?
I mean, I just think it's a really cool concept. I think it's a very beautiful idea that you don't necessarily always think about in that sense, in the
Yeah,
sense of, allowing people to go through things, allowing people to suffer a little bit instead of just trying to understand exactly where they're coming from all the time and trying to get on that level and trying to get on that wavelength, and commiserating, I think, is a trap that a lot of people fall into, is just they want to validate the other person's feelings and the other person's frustration instead of just purely being there and holding space.
yeah. Let me touch on that, dude. That's such a good point. Growing up, I was taught, and I don't know if like someone like came up to me and said, "Hey, this means this," but like from what I was taught by observing other people, like my parents and my friends and pretty much everyone else, dude. Like I was taught that if you care, you match the other person's frequency, right? So if someone else is like angry and frustrated, you should be angry and frustrated to let them know that you care about what they're saying. Or like someone else is really upset, then you should also be upset and sorry at the fact that they're upset. And that means that you care. And I'm not saying that, you know, that's wrong or you shouldn't do that. All I am here to say is that that is not the only way to show that you care. You actually don't have to match that person's vibration in order to care. You also don't have to be sorry in order to show that you care. Like a very normal example is like someone shares that someone passed away in their life, and you're like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. Like,
Mm.
again, I'm not saying that's wrong. I'm just saying like that isn't needed in order for you to care. You can care without that response. Um, and so I would challenge people to start to observe themselves and realize where are they abandoning themselves while thinking that they're holding space for someone else, right? And another question is if someone is angry or frustrated and you match that frequency, now you just have two people that are angry and frustrated. Who's holding space?
Mm.
Like, like when that person is ready, they're just going to walk into an angry and frustrated space. Another one, and so who's the one holding the loving space, the understanding space, the neutral space for them? Um, they're questions that I would ask you. Yeah.
Yeah, that's really cool, man.
Yeah.
Uh,
Um, anything else?
yeah, not off the top of my head. I think, well, I guess there is one more thing. Just the holding space, the idea of holding space in a situation where it might not be, necessarily negative, where someone might
Mm-hmm.
be talking to you about something they're excited about, and what are some things maybe to keep in mind in that situation where people are maybe excited or people are maybe, wanting to share something else with you and hold the ability to hold space in those situations.
Yeah, it's a great question. Everything that I've said so far also applies, right? First and foremost, connect to your heart and see what comes from there. Um, holding space for someone that's excited is so much easier. You just get
Definitely.
super excited and you just get pumped together, right? You just start jumping up and down together, dude, and just get pumped. Um, but no, like it's again, everything I've said also applies. But at the same time, it's just much easier to inhabit that space. So again, I would just connect to your heart, connect to joy, and just see what comes from there. Chances are you're just going to get pumped. Chances are you'll probably share some experience that you have about what they're pumped about. Chances are you'll probably have some questions like, oh, dude, what happened, man? Like, how did that happen? And you'll just give them more and more chances to get even more pumped through like you asking them questions about their experience. That's what normally comes out of me when someone's super excited. I just want to know more about what they're excited about. Um, and then that just normally gets them more excited. And then I get excited. And then off we go, dude you know? So that was a really good question though. But yeah, dude, I think nothing really else comes up for me, man. I think we crushed it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we crushed it, dude. We touched everything I want to touch on. I guess, yeah, I'll just leave people with this, man. Like trust yourself, tap into your heart, and allow your heart to express for you, whether it expresses silence, whether it expresses words, whether it expresses a warm embrace, whatever it is, trust it, man. And then when you're done holding space, reflect and learn from it. See what wisdom you can pull from it and then apply it to the next space that you hold for someone.
Yeah, man, that's super cool. I know for myself, and what we've talked about in the past is that idea of just an embrace it goes very far for me. I know it's not true for a lot of people or for many people, but for me, it's very, very powerful just to be able to share and then just receive a hug afterward. It's like it says everything you need to hear. Like I understand you,
Yeah.
I got you. I'm
Yeah.
here for you. So.
Yeah, it's a good question to ask someone. Again, me, Dan, and Dan's wife to be were talking last night, and one of the questions I asked them is, what disarms you, right? Like in a moment of ego, in a moment of anger, in a moment of frustration, like what's one thing that disarms you, that completely in a moment switches you from ego to love? And for Dan and for me, it's the same thing. It's just like physical touch. Like if someone comes up to me and gives me a hug, I'm back, baby. I'm back, but that may not be for everyone. Some people it's the complete opposite, right? Like Dan's wife to be is the complete opposite. She wants space for herself, right? And so both of these things are beautiful. Both of them are worthy and relevant, but it's important to know. So if you have a loved one um, that, you spend a lot of time with, it's a really beautiful question to ask them so you can understand what that is, right? Um, yeah,
Well, awesome, man. That's about all I got.
yeah, that's all I got too, man. Thank you, dude. That was great. I have a lot of energy right now. Thank you for holding space for me. That was awesome, dude. And
Yeah.
so, yeah, thanks, guys. Thanks for listening. Appreciate you. And see you next week.